All right, so here we go. We've got the bucket and the scale already set up, but I'm going to walk you through what we're doing here so that, again, if you're learning with me at home, want you to have as much information as I had, and then you can build on that, and if you can get better information, do that too. So, first thing we're doing is gloves. Before we go any further, this is where we want to make sure we've got our gloves, and we should probably have some goggles on, but we're not going to be mixing anything that's going to splash at this point, so we're going to not stress about gloves right now. Alright? Now, these are nitrile gloves instead of latex gloves. They're just to help reduce the amount of chance of getting chemicals on you. Chemicals can react differently with different people. This stuff is not supposed to be toxic, but by all means, use at your own risk. Alright? Now, I've got a USPS digital scale. I wish I had something better to use. I don't for right now, so we use what we've got. Alright, so the first thing we do is we start by turning it on. And what these scales do is, you've got a tare weight, right? Which is where you zero out the weight of the bucket so that you can measure the weight of the material. Alright, so with it at 0, we add this. And the bucket itself weighs 1.9. So when it's not showing it, there it is, 1.9.3. So we hit the tare button, we wait till it finishes flashing, and zeroes out the weight. And with that done, we're going to step over and move to the next part, which is pouring in the liquid. Alright, so I'm going to slide the other bucket to my lovely wife so that she can unscrew that lid too. And just put that, or just slide that to the side and undo the lid or whatever, so we can do it fast or whatever. Alright, so Moldstar 20T gives you a little bit of a quick working time. So and this is where an extra added pour spout would be such a huge help, but it is what it is. Alright. So I stopped this at 15.9. So we got to get the next part here to that same 15.9 or 16, which will be a pound. All right. You're leaning on. Now, what this is being mixed for is to get us a bottom layer of mold. I'm going to hand this to you if you can wipe off the drip on the side over there. Alright, now I went a little tiny bit over the target weight, but when you're dealing with amounts this high, you can usually get away with a little bit of that. Alright, so we're using a metal wire brush. We're going to get in here and stir. Now, you should not stir as fast as I'm doing because I'm trapping a ton of air bubbles. But because this isn't going to touch the actual object, this is just creating a wall or a floor for the mold, I'm not too terribly worried about it. And I'm going to use a system because I don't have there's no way in the world I could degas this amount of mold reliably. and it's just too big. So what I'm going to do instead of degassing is I'm going to use a method of pouring from really high, so it stretches out the lines and helps get the air out as the liquid is pouring into the box. Now, getting in there really good and dragging and scraping the sides helps make sure that you don't have any mold starter that is not getting mixed together correctly, which if you've got any chemicals that are not mixed correctly means they're not going to react correctly. And if they don't react correctly, you're going to have dead spots in your mold. Those dead spots will remain liquid indefinitely, and they will ruin your mold. I speak from experience. Do not do that. Take the extra time and get all of that stirred really good. Alright. I'm feeling good about where I'm at with this. I'm going to let the whisk drip off as much extra into the bucket as I can. This is the very definition of waste not, want not. I'm going to use an empty bucket to store this in so it can cure in there. And while that cures, eventually we'll be able to just peel it right off. Alright? So, Ashley is going to grab the camera and bring it around for you to look in here as I'm pouring this in so you can get a visual idea of what we're doing exactly. Alright, so starting from a high pour. We're just going to let this pour in and fill across the bottom layer. And the reason why we're pouring in one spot instead of just spreading around and pouring in all these different places is because that's going to help pressure out the air as it's pouring in and rolling across the bottom of the mold on its own, or across the mold box on its own. It's going to make this really neat sizzle sound, which is actually just the pouring sound, but because it's not water, it just makes this little bzzz type sound. Now it looks like I didn't make nearly enough for this bottom layer, but what we needed right now isn't to fill the box, we just need enough to spread across the bottom layer. Alright? So where I'm at right now, I'm going to let this rest on the back of the box. I'm going to grab my spatula spoon and I'm going to help it with running out. I'm going to scrape the sides. And then help encourage it to build up and finish running out. Camera's a little crooked.
Well,
I mean, it's sideways crooked. There you go.
yeah, I know.
Alright, now, once I get, and I'm going to say probably 98, 99% of this out, because you're really not going to get all of it without some kind of great flat scraper system, which I do not have. So again, we work with what we've got and we make it work. Okay? So if we look in there, we can see that there's some more still left around the edges. So scraping it and pulling it up at the bottom helps it build up some weight, and that weight is what helps it roll on out of the bucket when we tilt. Alright? So with almost all of this out of the bucket now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to set the big bucket down and then just kind of stir this around at the bottom here to help spread the liquid around. And we're going to show you what I mean. All right. So we're going to slide this a little forward. And with all of this in here, so as this spreads around and helps create this base layer, once we're ready to move to the Rancor pieces getting added in, that's where this is all going to take off and really shine. Now, there might be people who have a better system than this. There's nothing wrong with listening to whoever you feel comfortable listening to. If somebody can tell you better than I can, please, 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 please do not think that you have to do it my way or anything of the sort. Do what works for you, okay? So, I'm going to spoon it up and I'm drizzling it around so that it's touching the other pieces and spreading it out to help make sure that we've got a solid baseline layer. All right. This helps it make sure that everything is going to stick together when we add that last layer in here. All right. And so now to help with that final bit of spreading around, we're going to tilt the mold box just a little bit. We're going to set that aside in the bucket. All right. So I just need to help encourage the liquid to roll a little bit. And of course, that's not a good find. So, we've got a leak at the bottom from a hole I didn't catch. So, to save this from wasting any, hang on, we've got to clean some of that off of there first. And we're going to need alright. So I got to move fast with this. As I wipe that off, my wife is going to run the hot glue. Pull back, it's clogging. Alright, so we're going to wrap that one for the moment while we fix a small problem, and we'll be right back.